This episode is brought to you by my one and only food and mood journal. This is an 8-week food and mood journal and planner for beginners where you can track how food affects your mood, your hunger, and your energy levels. Are you sick and tired of promising yourself to stop binge eating? Do you feel out of control with food and you just don't know why you overeat? You might have intense cravings leading to self-sabotage. My food and mood journal is the perfect tool to help you tune into your signals that your body sends you. And by tracking what you eat and drink will help you give insight on how food affects your moods. This is an 8-week kickstart to mindful eating to help you identify the triggers that make you want to eat when you're not physically hungry. So this includes a food tracker, a mood and stress tracker, because we know that stress eating can also lead to overeating. We also have an 8-week goals tracker with journal prompts and affirmations. You'll also track things like your water intake and exercise. It makes a beautiful gift for anyone who feels out of control with food. It's an easy to use journal and it will give you just the insights to help you get on the path to stop binge eating, emotional eating, or any other form of overeating. So get your food and mood journal today by clicking the link in the show notes. Thank you. Welcome to Beyond Overeating by Wholesome Lifestyle Project, the Overeating podcast, where I'll be showing up weekly to share with you what I've learned during my binge eating recovery, helpful tools such as yoga, mindfulness, and energy medicine. My name is Stell, and my purpose is to inform and educate so that you can fast track your recovery in healing your relationship with food and finally trust yourself around the peanut butter jar. Join me as I share top tips, my struggles and triumphs to help inspire or just entertain. Remember, there is nothing wrong with you if you can't stop overeating. That's why I'm here to guide you along the way. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond Overeating podcast. My name is Coombe-Heath, binge and emotional eating recovery specialist, and now published author of the Food and Mood Journal. I'm so excited to be able to say that because this is a dream of mine that has taken quite a bit of time, but I'm so glad that I can now say that I'm a published author, because I just wanted to create a tool that can help so many more people. But enough about me. Today, I really wanted to talk about why you are probably still stuck in binge eating recovery, and possibly why you feel like you will never get out of this. So recently, I spoke to someone who really wanted to do one of my programs, and she just actually said, "Estelle, I just can't see myself following through. I just can't trust myself that I would be able to do it." And I said to her, absolutely. I didn't trust myself either. I think this is probably one of the hardest things we do. But I think one of the first things we need to let go of is the fact that we label ourselves as a binge eater and that we will always be a binge eater. I'd like for you to, number one, scratch that from your assumptions, scratch that from your belief. You are not your behavior. And I'm going to emphasize this. Binge eating is just a reaction to something that's underlyingly bothering you. And it's a behavior. It might be a habit that's taken over your life, but you are not that person. So do not take it on as your persona. So I wanted to talk about 5 ways that you might keep yourself stuck in binge eating, and how that can affect you. I'm also going to give you just 3 tips on how to move forward. So number 1, the first thing I would like for you to do is maybe write these things down, because, I think sometimes we get so bogged down with all the information out there. I'd love for you to just get a cup of tea and write these 3 things down, because it's going to come in so handy for you along the way. So the first thing I'd like for you to understand is the number one reason why you are still stuck in binge eating is probably because of some form of restriction, some form of not eating enough. And what I mean with that is you are either forgetting to eat, or you are on restrictive diets all the time to make up for binge eating. Now, 80% of my clients, when we start feeding them properly and once they eat regularly, the binge eating actually stops. Now, I know some of you might be recovering from bulimia or anorexia, and you find that you have this post-recovery binge eating happening. And that's just your body's natural way of actually refeeding itself in case there's danger, because we've starved ourselves for so long, because we've been on so many diets in our life, because we've preoccupied our life so much that we've not paid attention to when we eat, or we've not paid attention to actually eating. Our bodies are going, well, I'm sorry, I don't know when this person's going to feed me again. So when I do get food, I'm actually just going to go into autopilot mode. And I've actually used this analogy quite often recently because I'm from Africa. And, things there's a lot of poverty there. And there's nothing more heartbreaking than seeing someone who hasn't had food in a few days just actually shove food in their mouth without even chewing, and that is basically what happens to us as well when you don't feed yourself properly. So I often call this part of the food zombie brain. If you haven't heard about the food zombies, I really encourage you to go listen to episode 3, where I talk about why you binge in the first place. Episode 5, we go into more details, and episode 11 actually talks about the actual food zombies. So the food zombie here is counting Cassie, the person who wants to restrict the minute she's overeaten, the person who counts her calories on MyFitnessPal as an Excel spreadsheet and Weight Watchers app. Or was that just me? It's that person who is so worried about everything she puts in her mouth in case she binges again, or in case she gains, God forbid, just like, half a kilo of weight. So I would love for you, actually, by the way, to go and do my quiz to find out your food zombie personality. You can do that on www.wholesomelifestyleproject.com. Work with me quiz. You'll find it there, and I'd love for you to go and actually figure out what your food zombie is. The second reason why we stay in this kind of pattern of overeating is the fact that we believe that we need to be on diets all the time. And what happens is, the minute you are on diets, the same with restrictive eating, is you are in periods of restriction, your body thinks that there is something wrong with you. You actually create a hormonal imbalance by this calorie deficit that's so in fashion with the diet industry. This calorie deficit increases your hunger hormone called ghrelin. And when you have too much ghrelin in your system, you cannot feel fullness. And that's often why you can't stop eating. So the diet mentality does 2 things. First of all, it encourages restriction or dangerous ways of maintaining weight or actually losing weight. So this can often lead to disordered eating or eating disorders themselves. So dieting is actually the gateway to many, many problems. And I've done a few articles on the dangers of dieting and what that can actually look like, and also how to support someone with disordered eating, which I'll link in the show notes. So dieting, first of all, makes us restrict food, which causes that hormonal imbalance, which means that when you do actually get to your binge food, which is the stuff that you normally cut out, which is the stuff that's normally high calorie, but for your body, high calorie is good in times of starvation. So your body's going to actually want to eat more of those things. The second thing it does is it labels food as good and bad, or, it makes you feel guilt and shame for eating certain foods. It also adds guilt and shame to your body and what you look like. And it makes you fixate on the number on the scale, one number on the scale. So our bodies actually have a weight range, which can be anything between 5 kilos. Have you ever heard that person trying to or forever lose that 5 kilos? That 5 kilos is just your normal weight range, honey. And some people it's 10 kilos, some people it's 15. I'm sorry, I don't have the conversions here for pounds, but it doesn't really matter. Your body has a range of where it is. And even me in recovery, my body is not the same day to day. And it especially fluctuates when it's that time of the month, or when I'm in high periods of stress. My body fluctuated during my grief process. And it's probably going to fluctuate still throughout the rest of this year. So no day is your body the same. So stop fixating on that number and stop punching your height and weight into those damn BMI calculators, because it's just making you feel absolutely terrible with your body, which makes you start a war with food and your body. And the minute you've got that going on, we actually start creating behaviors that is not normal with food anymore. And I know so many of you want to be normal with food. Some of that would be sneaking food. Some of that would be lying about what you've eaten. Some of that would be over-exercising, taking diuretics, all those kind of things. That is not normal, but those are the things that the diet industry praise for, and they advertise shamelessly. And unfortunately, all those things are slowing down your metabolism. And that's why it's getting harder and harder for you to even maintain your normal body weight range. So get off the bloody diet. And the person I'm talking to here, the food zombie I'm talking to here, is Wagon Wonder. She's always on or off a diet. She self-sabotages. She thinks that she just needs to find the right diet and everything will be fine. I'm sorry, but there is no right diet. And in my mindful eating course that will be released at the end of October, we'll actually teach you how to ditch diets forever and ever, how to get rid of these food rules that you've been conditioned into believing, and also how to start eating in a different way, eating more mindfully. So look out for announcements for that as well. The third way that we stay in, binge eating is the fact that we think about food all the time. We obsess about food. We subscribe to certain food Pinterest boards. We subscribe to all these diets, Instagram accounts, newsletters, all these things. So we feed our vision and our eyes take in most of our senses. And here we are feeding our mind the whole time with diet alternatives. How can you make this meal healthy? How can you do the skinny version of this? But what you're doing is you showing your mind and your body images of food all the time. So usually what happens here, and this is obviously also just as an after effect of restriction, is the body is going to send you food thoughts. You are going to think about food all the time because the body is trying to survive. And eventually you're going to give into those food thoughts because your body is not just going to stay at thoughts, it's going to start creating physical reactions like saliva, or like stomping its little feet and make you feel so uncomfortable that you just bloody eat that chocolate. Are you with me? Because that's what my urges feel like. The other day I shared the story with one of my clients. just after, like about 2-3 days after my dad passed away, I haven't experienced an urge for quite a long time, but this day I was sitting there and I had this almost like something punched me in my gut. It was like seriously aggressive, bam. And it said, Stella, you need a donut. And I was like, what? Hello, urge. I haven't heard you forever, but let me do some of my tools in my work that I teach my clients to actually process what was going on there. And the fact is, I actually didn't need donuts. I needed to process and just be in a space of comfort. Donuts are normally comfort foods, but I actually just did the work. And then, when I did the work, I still went and took myself out for a nice piece of cake as if I was having it with my dad. And it was his favorite cake. So just know that there is still space for eating foods, but in the right emotional space. And that's what I teach my clients in the Rewire Your Overeating Brain program. Also about to come up in the Mindful Eating course that will be released at the end of October. So this food zombie here is possessed Patsy, and possessed Patsy cannot stop thinking about food. One, because she's been in restriction, but two, she is obsessively thinking about food. She feeds those thoughts, and she doesn't know how to control that. Number 4, I'm trying to keep these episodes short and sweet, but I just love talking about this stuff, and hopefully you get a lot out of this. Hopefully you've been taking notes vigorously, because this is going to help you so much. Number 4 is the fact that we are in stress mode too long and we don't know how to manage our stress. And I talk about this often as well when I'm on podcasts and just, in general when I talk with my clients, is the fact that we have been taught how to live economically, but not emotionally. At school, you are taught to survive, you are taught how to be strong, you are taught how to make money and be independent and feed your brain with, so that you can be intelligent and stand up and stand out so that you can achieve your goals and survive, basically from a financial perspective. However, we are never taught how to manage the stresses that go with all those things. Think about the exam stress you already had as a student. I remember freaking out, even just in primary school, about my marks and all those kind of things. We are never taught how to stress manage. We are never taught to just even do deep breathing before an exam. None of that. I still come from an old school back in South Africa, where in the primary school we used to say a prayer before the exam. So prayers are not really going to help you if you're not, first of all, if you're not really that religious. But also the prayer is not something that's going to, and I have nothing against prayer, please don't get me wrong here. I say prayers for certain things, but it's not putting you in the right nervous system, because it's not it's not something that allows us to really get into the nervous system, like deep breathing or some yoga stretches even before an exam would have been amazing for us. So we are brought up in a world that is full of stress. And, whether you want to blame coronavirus or whether you want to blame whatever, there's always going to be stress in our environment. Before the pandemic, we were stressing out when we've lost our keys. We stress out because we're sending an email late. We're stressing because we might we worry that we might not meet deadlines at work, or we stress about our kids. All these things add up. And all of a sudden, we're sitting in a space where we binge eat and we have no idea why. And the reason for that is because we have no way of dealing and managing our stress. So the food zombie here that I love to refer to is Anxious Annie, and she's a stress eater. And usually she's fine. She can be on a healthy diet or healthy eating plan, whatever you want to call it. I'm not advocating diets or healthy eating plans here, but she's usually the one that's on a, she can eat healthy, but then she'll tell you the minute she's stressed, everything goes out the window. She adopts the fuck it effect. And then she thinks there's something seriously wrong with her because she binge eats when everything's gone so well. And the last but not least is our, some of us who actually eat late at night. So you can give me in the comments wherever you're watching this on, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening to this on whatever platform, let me know in the reviews if you are a late night Lizzie. Now, the reason why we binge eat at night is because we didn't give ourselves space to just feel into our emotions during the day, but B, we have probably accumulated a bunch of the things that I've already mentioned. A lot of people don't eat properly during the day. They forget or they starve themselves through diets or fasting or whatever the case. You can hear that I am not a fan of dieting. I recently wrote an article about how anti-diet is not the same as anti-health, which I'll also link in the comments, so you can go and read that. But, you know, there's just the way we carry ourselves during the day can lead to a lot of things that we need to distract ourselves from at the end of the day. And that's often why people find themselves sitting in front of the television late at night and they can't stop themselves from eating. So this food zombie is called Late Night Lizzie. I love her because I used to be Late Night Lizzie so many times. And, you know, it was one of the hardest things for me to overcome. So I've been all 5 of these things, and all these reasons are what kept me in binge eating for so long. I'm going to give you a 6th reason, which is something that we often don't hear about. And this is the fact that our ego, and I don't mean that, you know, the ego is often perceived as just this, you know, egotistical male person, or look at me, I am so awesome. We all have an ego, and the ego is the persona that we carry about ourselves, the thing that we want others to believe about ourselves. And this ego is the one that actually says, you don't need any help. You can do this yourself. You just need to research the right diets. You just need to cut out something else. And eventually everything will sort itself out. And that part of it is the actual ego. The part of us that really says, you don't need anything. And the reason why it does that is because deep down, it is afraid of change, because recovery means that you need to try new things. You need to face your emotions. You need to heal your relationship with food. You need to let go of the things that you've been controlling so much with counting calories and getting on the scale and, you know, whatever other measures you are taking. And that creates fear. And the body does not like fear. The body likes easy. And currently, whether you like it or not, your binge eating is the easy route for your body. And that's why I said at the beginning of the episode, there's nothing wrong with you if you binge eat. There's something just underlying that you need to pay attention to. So 3 quick tips for you to move forward. The first one is stop dieting. Now, in my mindful eating course coming out end of October, I give you, I think there's about six lessons on how to really stop dieting. I think this is not an easy process. This is years and years of conditioning, and you can't just find that in one blog article. That's why I went into so much detail, so many journal prompts and questionnaires for you to complete to really process and see where you are on your dieting journey and how to move forward. you also need to start being more mindful. And as I said, none of us were taught, unless you were brought up with someone whose mom's a yogi and you were taught meditation, or someone who's into meditation and mindfulness from a young age. Some people are. I was definitely not part of that culture. It wasn't a thing. It was very Eastern, and not really something that we conform to. Practicing mindfulness, mindfulness in how you react to things. Your thoughts, your emotions are what drive your behavior. So we need to be mindful of all those things. Then we also have, obviously, the element of mindful eating. And I've actually put both of those elements in my mindful eating course because, first of all, most people don't know how to be mindful. And then how are you going to apply to mindful eating if you don't actually understand the principles and practice the principles of mindful eating? So there's many meditations in there, loads of little things for you to just get comfortable with being mindful, understanding the process. Mindfulness can be a scary thing as well, because all of a sudden you need to step back, step out of your thoughts, step out of your emotions, step out of your stories, and just observe, just see what's going on. And again, our brain does not like that. It's not easy. That's why I put a course together for you to really get into those things, because I know that it's gonna be one of the hardest things that you probably need to attempt in in some of the things that you go through. The last thing is, from my perspective, is practicing some yoga. And the reason why I say that is because yoga is just such a beautiful way for you to learn how to connect mind, body, and soul. We are more than just body. We are more than just mind. There's actually 5 different layers of the body, which I will go to in a different episode. But as you know, yoga is one of the tools that really help me connect back to my body and help me to bring a lot of compassion and kindness to myself, which helped me to actually learn to fall in love with myself again, to be at peace with myself. And there's a lot of you out there that I know would love that. There's a lot of you who I know would love to have a better connection with yourself and also just your body. And yoga is a tool that will do that. So I am secretly working on a yoga platform where you can actually join me. I'll give you a coupon for a free 2-week trial where you can come and practice mindful yoga and different talks. This is called the Beyond Overeating membership program. So I did promise at the beginning of October that there's going to be so many different things. But if you are wanting to just wait and before you get started, I would seriously recommend that you get my Food and Mood Journal, which is out on Amazon. It's really going to give you just that introduction to being mindful, introduction to start just putting some thoughts about yourself with your relationship with food on pen and paper. It's an 8-week journey of mindful eating where you really just get to track things, not your calories, but what you eat and how it affects your body so that you can start connecting to it. So I'll pop the link for that book in as well. Otherwise, you can look at awesomelifestyleproject.com. Just type in the search bar book and you should find my book. You are also welcome to ask me any questions. I do have a chat function now on my website, wholesomelifestyleproject.com. Look for the little purple icon, type your message in, make sure to put your email and your phone number in so that I can reply back to you either in a text message or on email. I do get notifications on those. So the minute I get them, I am so eager to hear your comments. I'd love for you to also send future requests. If you have any questions about binge eating and how to overcome that, go to www.com or wholesomelifestyleproject.com, sorry. And go to the chat button, send me a message and just put podcast request and put your question. I'd love to start answering some questions. Thank you so much for joining in on this episode. I can't wait for the next one. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Mwah. Bye. Everyone, Coombe-Heath here, binge and emotional eating recovery specialist. I am on a mission to help women end the war against food and their bodies. And today I have a very special guest with me, one of my amazing clients, Downey, and she's going to just share a little bit about her experience through the Food Freedom Program. So welcome, Kim.
Hi, Sal.
So good to have you here. Did you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Kim. I live in Adelaide. I have 2 teenagers. We live close to the beach. I'm passionate about the ocean, and I think also just generally like women's equality. That's probably my passions.
Beautiful. And I think through our time together, what I learned is you really just such an example for other women when it comes to your passions and how you stand out and what you believe in. So super proud of that.
Thanks, Carol. Yeah, I think it's really important to kind of role model, particularly the next generation, about women just taking their place at the table.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we've had many discussions about that, and I think we can have many more.
Yes.
So did you want to just tell us what life was like before the Food Freedom Program or before you found me?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure this will be familiar to a lot of people, but I've spent my whole life yo-yo dieting, probably like just hating myself and my body and feeling really disconnected with food. I've actually even had gastric banding surgery. I've had that for 20 years. And I still haven't made peace with food or my body. I think food was a constant thinking space for me, as was, this relationship with yourself and your scales and a good and bad mentality around, if you're doing something, then you're a good person, or if you're not with food, you're a bad person, and just really attached to that being part of my self-worth.
Yeah, and you're definitely not alone in that. I know I experienced that myself as well for many years. So thank you so much for sharing. And how did you treat food before the working together on the Food Freedom Program?
I think food is like one of those things that takes up a lot of space in your mind. I probably used food as a reward punishment. Also, either on either ends of the scale, like really good or really bad, and then that makes you into the thinking of the type of person that you might be, depending on what that is. And probably just not really having the respect for food that I feel like have improved on. Yeah.
Amazing. And what was your biggest aha moment during our time together?
Yeah, there's been lots, I must say. Look, I think the biggest thing for me is just this self-awareness around the negative thinking patterns. It's actually disgusting the way that you treat yourself and the stories you tell yourself. and the stories that you keep telling yourself over and over and over again. And, I think, Stell talked a lot about, your mind just replaying the same story to you. I think my mind's been replaying the same story to me for over 40 years. And, that's really difficult. And I guess one of the reasons why I reached out to Stell was because I was sick of it being about that. And I actually thought it must be more than that. And so I thought, well, I need help. I need counselling. It actually must be about my head. I'm doing all these things and with no results, going up and down. And yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, amazing. And given what you've learned and your experiences through the program, what would you just say to someone who's considering reaching out for help or just working with me in the Food Freedom Program?
Yeah. Stell's amazing. She has a mission to change 1 million women's lives, and I'm so confident that she's going to do it. The one-on-one program is really tailored to you. It's very bespoke and personalised, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. It's worth every single cent. It's also hard because you have to face into some of those fears. So I would say if you're sick of treating yourself like shit and you're sick of using food as something that defines you, then you should challenge the way you think, and Stell will help you do that.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. Beautiful. Last little question. How has the STOP method helped you along your journey, or any of the other tools that we work through?
Yeah. It's a lot of mindfulness eating now. I think still we talked about stopping and giving that food the respect and the time that it deserves. That's been really helpful. And the other thing would be like when you're going to eat something, I've started really questioning, is this from an emotion or is this because I'm hungry? And I think you taught me a lot to listen to my hunger signals in my body, not my brain. Because I reckon before I didn't like the hunger feeling. I thought it would it made me feel like unsafe for whatever reason. So now I'm feeling much more comfortable with actually working with myself, not against myself. So just being aware about making a conscious decision and giving yourself permission, right? It's not, perfectionism is overrated and you don't need to be perfect. So I think, Stell, you gave me permission. And, I think one of the biggest things was, that moment about eating one Ferrero Rocher in front of my team. I just would die having to, eat chocolate in front of anyone. But yeah, doing that little tool, that was pretty funny, really. Because, I'm sure there's lots of women or anyone who are just eating secretly for comfort.
Yeah, beautiful. And the memory I have of our last session together was you like, I'm so free. I don't think about food all the time.
It's true. And it's so surprising to me after all these years how quick that happened for me, having spent all this wasted energy on thinking about food and being so against myself and my body and what I'm eating. It's freedom. Yeah. Mate, is that why it's called that, Stell?
That's why it's called that.
I suppose the good thing is that Stell takes you on the journey so you have time to digest the thinking. And that's the key to the program, right? Because she can't say to you day one, blah, blah, blah. You got to kind of work it out for yourself. And she's really good at making you think about that and what it means for you personally. So yeah, it's been amazing. I've found it really challenging, but really rewarding. And I'm so thankful that I found Stell.
Oh yeah, I'm so thankful that I found you too, my love. Oh, thank you so much, Kim, for sharing your journey with us. I'm so grateful that we have met each other. I'm sure we're gonna have so many more memories together, whether it's definitely coming to visit you soon when we
Get out of lockdown, that's right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Stell.
Thank you so much for joining me today, and don't forget to share this with all your friends. You can do this by adding this to your Instagram story and tagging me at Wholesome Lifestyle Project, or by simply telling them about it. If you could rate and review on whatever platform you are listening, this will go a long way in helping me get this podcast out there so that I can share my message and help as many women out there struggling with food issues as I can. Don't forget, you can follow me on Instagram on Wholesome Lifestyle Project, or connect with me on LinkedIn. My name's Coombe-Heath, and that's where you'll find me on LinkedIn. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.